So hello and welcome to Limitless You Talk with me, Katie, and I'm delighted to be joined by Donna Martin, who is an empowerment coach. But I know Donna is a fellow client because we're both in the same coaching program. I've known Donna for over 2.5 years now, which is absolute crazy. And me and Donna kind of got closer, I would say more recent than anything, because we were both at certain events and different things, and we're able to have really, really good conversations, good chats, and not Katie hiding in the background or not going to these events. So,
and watching the growth in you has been huge as well. Like I've literally watched you evolve.
I think we both have.
Mm-hmm.
I think we both have, in a way. Like, if we think of ourselves 2.5 years, actually, no, maybe not think of ourselves 2.5 years ago, like just how much we've both been through. So, I think having Donna on here talking today was the right time for us to have a bit of women empowerment and everything like that. So excited about this, Donna. But before we get into it, I could say a lot of things about you. I would say a lot of nice things. But what would you say about you as Donna?
Currently?
Anything. Currently, past, present, into the future?
I would say I am definitely on a mission to empower females to find your voice, to know your personal power, to stand in your personal power and be like confident and courageous in who you are, and that stems from being something very different. So I would say, like you say, it's been a massive shift, a massive transformation, but I'm definitely in a space where I'm like, people need to know. It's like that whole still game thing. People need to know this.
This is why we're talking right now. We're telling people, exactly. Don't worry, we're telling people. So I think it's crazy because, like, you've spoke to me before about like growth, and I was like, oh really? I don't, and it's so hard to like take a compliment with it or feel empowered or go for it. And I was thinking about, all the conversations that we've had, and I think I said to you before about self-worth. Like, I never felt I was enough in certain aspects, and even the same coaching program that we're in, I shared about it that 3 times I went to leave because I thought it was a failure. I didn't think I was good enough. And it was just because I never believed in myself, never, I wasn't positive about it and thought, I'm not good enough. I'll never be what these other people are. And it's like, from a female's point of view, it's quite sad to be that way. Because each of us...
so common. It's so common.
It is. And I think it's sad that we're more like that than what we are trying to do now. We're, like, as you say, on a mission to spread the word, spread the messages, to encourage empowerment. And that's why we work with the people that we do as well. And from all of that and from your experience now, both in, I suppose, in a professional and the personal way, because the personal and professional growth goes hand in hand. The benefits, I want to start positively. So I was thinking about, like, the benefits from being your empowered self. What in your opinion would you say they are?
I feel like the list is endless. I feel like when you can step into your power, the ripple effect on everything in your life is huge. So, like, from everything from relationships to, like, the relationship with yourself, but also the relationship with other people, relationship with food. And I know this isn't like necessarily about physical stuff, but when you can feel empowered, you have so much more, like you say, belief in yourself, so much more self-worth, that you are not avoiding of taking risks. You're not avoiding of doing the scary things. You're a bit more like, and actually in doing the scary things is where you feel the empowerment. I feel it to be empowered, and it's not like a plaster, like you stick, like it's not like a magic wand or anything like that. Like, it's something that has to be continuous. It's something that you have to keep on keeping on. And it's still something that everybody, I think, even if you feel your most empowered self, there'll still be that little voice that will come in and say otherwise. But you get much better at managing that and quieting that and knowing that you can, rather than allowing that voice to tell you that you can't, for whatever that is. That could be so many things.
Yeah, but sometimes on a daily basis of I can't be bothered, I can't. Do you know what I've learned this year? That's what I was just thinking about it. Like, sometimes when I've went to say something like, oh, I can't do this right now because something else has came up and I've got to prioritise that or whatever it is, I'm actually finding more out of myself when I'm doing the things I actually don't want to do.
Yeah.
And then I realised that I'm coming at, so I used to, at like events that when I first joined the coaching programme, like I never met you face to face for quite a while because I just didn't go to them. As Christian always said to me, he's like, yeah, you would make up that your goldfish had died and you don't even have a goldfish to get out of that because it was an uncomfortable environment, didn't want to do it. And from now being a regular and being like, I'm more annoyed when I miss out now because of coming away empowered, coming away inspired, coming away like momentum and enabling me to grow with that. It's amazing how the things you don't want to do can actually be the things that you need to do to 100%. Help you get that way.
100%. And the more you do that, crazy. the more it empowers you feel. Like it's like it's a building trust for yourself, isn't it? The more you do these things, the more you're like, oh, actually, I can do that. And then something else. So actually, like you say, it is a fear. The first time I went to like a group coaching thing was the same. You were a bit like that whole like melting into the background a wee bit, and I'm quite like bubbly. I'm quite like outgoing, but there's still that wee element of like, like I don't know these people. Do you know what I mean? But like that now. You just wouldn't even think so. Like the last one, I was like hugging everybody, and this girl was like, "I can't believe you just came in and hugged everybody." And I was like, "Well, that's just who I am. Sorry if you don't like hugs."
it's so crazy, and it's for me. It's like it's brought friendships, it's brought opportunity, it's brought learning. It's like Ross, that both in the same coaching group. Like I love Ross, and I say to him constantly, I channel my inner Ross. Like he's all about self-development things. And I'd send him a voice note and I go, oh, Ross, I'm just channeling my inner Ross. So he actually used it on a podcast that he was on. And he sent me and he was like, I used that. And I was like, but it is. Because he always believes like the universe has something in line. I was like, well, my mum believes that everything happens for a reason. My mum's always taught me that anything that I was really down about or something happened and I got upset about, she's like, listen, it's happened for a reason. Like even relationship breakups, she's like, it's happened for a reason. So let's work. And I'm like, oh, here comes the woman that's usually glass half empty here.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't know what that reason is till a way down the line. Like sometimes you, like the reason will hit you all of a sudden at the blue, like 6 weeks, 12 weeks later, and you'd be like, oh, right, that's why that happens.
Yeah. So, took me 2 years.
Yeah.
Took me 2 years for it to sink in. But like as a woman, and then obviously we have to put coaching hats on at time.
Yeah.
And I love seeing, especially in women, like I love just seeing, and it's not like, as you say, it's not the physical changes or anything like this. It's just like if someone was to turn around and go like, Katie, I feel happy today, or I feel really, really good, or I didn't realise how much looking after myself was actually going to help me have a fulfilled life. And I'm like, that is why. And I love how it's become such a big thing since COVID. But at the same time, there's so many people and so many women especially still missing out on the chance to do that. So I suppose like using all your experience and what you do as a coach with it, how can you encourage that someone that wants it but hasn't necessarily gone and done anything about it yet?
I would say start small. Like I think people think they see what they want. They want it like first of all they want it tomorrow or yesterday, and they don't zoom into the bigger picture. Like they don't see that actually. See if you just take 1%, it makes tomorrow better. It's like 1% better than today. It doesn't need to be this big overhaul. I think when people overhaul things in any way, like in any transformation, be that physical, spiritual, business, whatever. People think that it needs to be this big switch and change and everything's different, whatever, and then they're so far away from who they actually are that it becomes overwhelming and they can't actually sustain it. And that's why you get, how many women do you hear, oh, back Monday I get, like for instance for my physical transformation, oh, I'll start again on Monday, like it's a pure cliche.
Back on it, yeah, I'm back on it. I'm going to eat, like, so I'm going to eat everything. I'm going to have a Chinese this weekend. I'm going out for a drink. And like, they go absolute hammer and tong Saturday and Sunday. There's like 2-3 takeaways in there, and then come Monday, right, I'm eating a salad today. And I call it like the Monday to Wednesday mind.
Aye.
And then reality hits. Yeah. So like on Monday to Wednesday, it's like, oh yeah, I'm back on slimming world and all that sort. And then by Wednesday, it's like they're at McDonald's. But it's if they've got kids, for example, it's the kids' fault because the kids wanted the McDonald's. I'm like, no. That you can, the kids can have the McDonald's. You don't need to have the McDonald's. Like we're in this vicious circle. It's like Monday mentality.
Yeah, And I think though, like society nowadays it does make it difficult. There's no two ways about it. Like the things that are like you're drawn to are right there. Like that, like oh even be that if it's food, be that if it's social media, be that if it's stuff that's not necessarily going to serve you. It does make it more difficult, but it just means you need to work that kind of that discipline muscle a wee bit more. But I would say like you don't want to be thinking of this big, that's it, I'm a different person, because that takes frigging years. Like that takes
Yeah.
years to then to accomplish. I remember when I joined, well obviously the coaching program we were with was a different name at the time, but I was like, it was like a 3 month sign up, and I was like, I'll be here for 3 months and that's it. And I'm like 3 years later, I'm still there, like light bulbs are going off, do you know what I mean? And there's still growth, because when you start that journey you realise that it's actually not like there's not really a timestamp on it. It's just like a constant evolution, a constant growth, like try to just better yourself in all different aspects of your life. And like I said at the beginning, like that ripple effect. So I would say to encourage somebody, don't think about it in like this amount of time. Think about like, who am I going to be in a year? And then it's like, it gives you one, it doesn't make you feel overwhelmed, and it also just gives you that breathing space to be like, actually, see, that year it's going to pass anyway. How quickly did the last year go? My God, we're nearly at the end of the year. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to pass. So if you can be 1% better every day, then you're 365% better by next year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like taking it like that, rather than being like, right, that's it. I've got a holiday in 6 weeks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, or whatever that may be. If it's a business thing, if it's whatever it is.
I think you're right. I think when you, like, see when I see like 6 week challenges or 8 week challenges, like drop this amount of weight or, diet for this amount of time, and I'm like, yeah, but what happens when you, like, if you gain double the weight, or you're one step forward but you're 5 steps back, and
Yeah.
then you need to go through that cycle again? Where's your longevity there?
Yeah.
Where's your, like, and I always ask sometimes when I ask people in coaching, I'm like, can I just ask you a question? I'm like, are you patient? And they go, oh, I'm not very good with patience. I'm like, right, we're going to have a problem here. And the
Right.
only reason it's going to be a problem is it's going to be a self problem. It's not going to be a me problem. As you say, they're going to want something tomorrow or last week. And I'm like, no, it's a longevity thing. I was like, let me set the benchmark for you. Like, I had to go through everything for 2 years to have it click that actually I've got to stop talking some amount of shit. And you've got to,
Yeah.
like as you say, start small. So it was like, start small. It was like, right, okay, make a priority of myself today. What am I going to do for myself today? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Took 5 minutes and used to hide in the toilet quite a lot. Still sometimes do that to this day, but it's only because it helps me, and it's only because there's a lock in the door, and it's like no one can disturb that space. It might be the most stressful day ever, and it's just doing like everyday habits, everyday behaviours, every day using it as a new start, not being that Monday mentality, and using every day as like, I always think now to myself, how successful do I want the day to be?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to let that person that said something the wrong way to me, am I going to let it take me into that spot where I get angry, I get irritated, or am I going to be like, right, okay, do you know what, you've actually fueled my session that I'm going to do in the gym later on, or you're going to like fuel my run, or like fuel the fact that, do you know what, I'm in a better space than you, and you're the one that's got the issue, it's a you problem. Again, it's not a me problem. You're just trying to include everybody in that. And I think it does come from doing the hard and the challenging work, but I think it's like a never ending.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Never ending work that we do. It's who we choose to be. See, I'm learning all these things, like it's who we choose to be within that. And I think, like, to enable to be like that, what would you say are like the first kind of 3-4 steps to that?
To
become that, like, empowerment, to whatever transformation it might be.
Yeah, I suppose I was going to say it could be different depending on what you're well, it would be more specific depending on what you're looking to transform. However, before I even answer that, me and my friend both went into like transformation, so to speak, into different avenues, and we were talking about this right recently. So she went very much business, like threw herself into business and done loads and loads of business stuff, but like totally neglected our personal development. And then I went the total other way, totally thinking my personal development. Not that I neglected my business at all, but we definitely went in both avenues. But then we're now at a place where we're kind of like crossing almost, like we're kind of at this kind of same point. But the way we got there was the same thought process. Do you know what I mean? It was like, how do you be better? How do you look for those 1% each day and stuff like that? So first few steps, I would say, again, it would depend if you're reaching out for a coach or not, because I would say I didn't reach out for a coach until 2 years down the line, so I'd done so much on my own, and then I reached out to Christian, and like that just catapults your growth 1,000,000%, because it's them for somebody else. It's you're being accountable to somebody else that's not being well. There is the accountability, but there's also the cheerleader. There's that kind of devil and angel kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? When you've got both. Other than that, other steps that I would say would be like journaling. I love journaling.
I love that. Yeah,
it's a really good way to if you're just like dipping your toe in the kind of personal development space in some capacity. Journaling's huge, because I mean, I'm a pure believer that everything comes from your mind first. Like, everything's a thought first, and if your brain is just like brrr, which, let's face it, majority of us are. Journaling is just a nice way to just like just thing with that like settle that down a wee bit. So I journal in the morning and I journal at night. So in the morning's more like my like setting my intentions, what I'm grateful for. So you're starting to go off like in a kind of that foot, rather than it being like, oh my God, today's whatever day. And then at night I'll reflect on what went right, what went quote unquote wrong, but not in a wrong way, not in like a failure way, more like in a right, well, how can I do better tomorrow? Like, it's rather than it being, oh my God, I was shocking at that or whatever. So I would say journaling's massive. You were talking about like reactions and responding. So for that, I would say I'm a pure believer in breath work for that. Like, I work with a lot of kids in schools, and a lot of their issues, I shouldn't really say it like that, but like a lot of the things they struggle with is their emotions. So like regulating their emotions. So like that is breath work is a massive thing that I take into there, because that's that soothing your nervous system. So if you can just grab hold of your breath, it costs nothing because you've got it. And if you can just grab hold of your breath when you're in that reactive state, that you can then allow things to settle down and come back to that kind of homeostasis. Excuse me. See this cough. Yeah, journaling, breath work. I would say meditation, but I feel like meditation is maybe like a few steps down the line, depending on who you are. And like planning and setting goals, like actually thinking about like, well, who do I want to be? Like, and again, a lot of the times if I'm working with somebody in this space of like, I don't really know, they've got no clarity, they're quite thinking me, I would do like a perfect year. I either do a perfect year, a perfect day, a perfect week, or I do a vision board. So like, it just, again, it depends who I'm working with. It's for people to like dream big and to actually look at like, who actually do it, what actually do I want, what do I want out of my life. Like, there's that whole thing, West of Scotland plodding along thing, do you know what I mean? Like but people, so many of us just plod, or so many people plod along, when actually they have so much more at their fingertips if they just tapped into it. But then that you need to have that space to be able to be like, right, what actually is it that I want in my life? Like, so vision boards are really, really powerful. And like I said, like looking at no restrictions, no financial restrictions, no rules, no whatever, no limitations. What do you actually want out your life? And then once you've got that big crazy picture, even though it seems like you're a million miles away, you can then kind of reverse engineer it to then take the steps backwards to then be like, right, so what's the first step? But you need to have the big picture first.
Yeah, I started journaling July 24, and I was like, I was still a bit skeptical about it, but just doing it for the first time made the difference.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna set an alarm to do that. So at 9:15 every night, that's between like 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that's my time to just kind of calm down unless there's something else going on. And whatever's in my head, it might not necessarily be to do with the day that it's been. It could be something that plops into my head from months ago, but it's relevant. And then I finish off with one thing that I'm grateful for. And again, it might not be something that I'm grateful for in that day. It might be something that I remember about a situation, a circumstance, a challenge I was presented with. But for me, it's probably relevant to maybe that day. But I'm connecting it to different things. So for me, that's helped me sleep. That's helped me relax a bit more. Breathing. I mean, we all have to breathe, if you know what I mean. Stay alive, we all have to breathe. So it's just how I was thinking my legs as my tree stump. I was in hypnotherapy. That's my tree stump. So when my feet are flat on the ground, totally grounded. I used to do it. It's kind of strange. I used to do it when we were at funerals. So conducting a funeral. Yeah, so like the back of the chapel, back of a church, back of a crematorium. because obviously you're waiting for a family to come out in, things like that. It's like there's a lot of standing about. So it was a good opportunity because sometimes you have to use a time at a funeral as a bit of reflection.
Yeah.
You know, you're surrounded by grief, you're surrounded by bereavement, you're surrounded by inspirational people talking about their life, their legacy, their celebration of life. So just standing there for a few minutes, especially if you're standing on a very, very cold Scottish day, you
Yeah.
know, you can't help not. And sometimes it helps say what's next in the day. So if you're going back from a funeral to meet another family, it just gave me that chance to sort of transition into on a funeral to before, like all the kind of steps that go before it. So it's amazing when you realise you're doing certain things, but you don't realise you've done it. Meditation is something I've not really done as such myself, but the people that have that of watching videos about it and learning about it, it's something that I would like to bring in when the time is right. I think you say, like, you're either somebody that's ready for it or it's a few steps down the line, and I still feel I'm not quite there, but I'm working towards it. And to be self-aware, I mean, that's being self-aware has got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, huge. Absolutely huge. And that's why journaling and stuff like that is really powerful, because it's giving you that awareness, it's giving you that reflection time, it's giving you that kind of almost like verbal diarrhea, isn't it, really? Like, it can be what you want it to be. So many people ask me, like, how do you even start journaling? And you can get like journal like books that prompt you, which are really good. So if you're like quite new to journaling, like the prompts are there to ask you the questions, and then you just answer the questions. But then that kind of evolves into, or sometimes, maybe not always, but quite often for me, I'm just a blank notepad, and I just write. I just, like you say, what comes to you, you just write. Because I do think, I mean, I remember the first time I journaled, I was a bit like, what do you even write? Like, what
I was the same. I was the same. I was like, I am good today. My name is Katie, and I am crazy. And then I was like, I did a thing that was like writing about 20 things that you're grateful for, and I wrote. Remember you used to at the school when you would get lines for being naughty in the class, and you would have to write like, I must promise to not be naughty like 20 times. So every bit of gratitude I wrote, I am grateful for everyone. I got challenged on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but for me writing, I am grateful, and actually in my head saying it for every 20 thing that I put on there made it more for me. But then for some people, writing that 20 times was the point, writing that 20 times. You know, so it's as you see, you're like, oh, what did I do here? What it is. But then when you start getting into that flow, like,
it just comes. It just comes. It's weird. It's like as if it just like there's not a nobody tells you, it just comes. And you're talking there about like the gratitude, like that's another thing I would say is really powerful. Gratitude and affirmations. Again, I'm obviously pure in my whole spiritual space, like I love it, but like it sounds really wishy-washy. It sounds like what the hell, but see, the more you actually, like, I would never talk about it or like promote it, and I didn't actually really believe to be true. And so when you can, like, when you're saying these things out loud, you're affirming them. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're like, even subconsciously you're affirming it subconsciously, but if you're saying it like so you don't need to say it, like, because obviously some people will be like, I'm not saying it out loud. Like my neighbour will be like, who the hell? Do you know what I mean?
Who are you? Aye.
Aye. But if you're writing it down, if you're thinking the thought, if you're like, that is your subconscious brain is going to be taking all that in, and if it's taking in positivity in some capacity, then it's not going to be a negative thing. Do you know what I mean?
No. And when you're talking about spirituality, that's something that I've not explored myself. So, like, just again, I'm just so curious off the top of my head now. Like, what do I need to understand about spirituality that could actually add value to my journey of self-development and empowerment?
I feel like, I mean, I'm still very much on that very path. Like, I'm not, like, I don't know everything, but I know bits about it. It's almost like an enlightenment, like a higher level, like a new dimension almost. And it sounds like that, but now I'm going pure. But it just unlocks something else. It's almost like, now, like, I like to think of like your life and your personal development as like a wee jigsaw, and like there's like your food and your physical stuff, and then your but spirituality is like another wee light bulb, like another part of the jigsaw that just it brings you more clarity, more comfort. Well, for me anyway, it gives you new lessons and new like ways of like questioning things and opening up things. And so I'll do like loads of different things. I'm totally up for like I'll explore loads of different avenues of it. So like I often do Reiki, which is like to do with your chakras.
What's a chakra? I'm totally naive to this. What is a
So,
chakra?
so your chakras that like give you chakras through your body. It's a spiritual, so like an energy thing. So you've got chakras
Oh,
moving
okay.
through your body.
Okay.
So like in this energy space, I feel like that they say that like some chakras can get blocked. So like for instance, if your throat chakra is blocked, that would then be like you're holding back, you're not speaking your truth, you're not speaking your voice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I do things like sound baths and I go to like different circles and there's even like like the cards, like tarot cards and all that come out. And then at first when you get you're a bit like, so everybody's talking about how they're seeing all this stuff in the tarot, and at first when you first do it, you're like, I just see like, do you know what I mean? I just see like a picture
Mhm.
says something at the bottom, like, okay, and then you're like, oh God, what have I got to say here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, like that, it's a learning process. So like when I went to something last week, in fact it was Sunday, I got a card that said grateful. It was a beautiful card. And see the amount of stuff I could see in that picture. It was like unbelievable. I could see so much more in
Wow.
the picture. And then it just lets you like kind of clocks turn in your head where you're like, then you start to be like, right, so this could mean this, it could mean this, and could mean this. Now, whether it does or not is irrelevant. See if it's bringing you comfort, it's bringing you peace, and it's bringing you some sort of clarity or some a bit closer to where you want to be. They say that when you get a card, like it's giving you the card for a reason in the sense because you pick your cards, it's not given to you. So like I was saying, for instance, about the gratitude card, like I do live my life really, really grateful. Like I'm really, really grateful for everything I do. But there is elements in my life recently that I've been a bit more frustrated with. And it was just like highlighting, actually, you need to be grateful for everything. Like even the hard stuff, even the frustrated stuff, because like if you're grateful for it, then you can overcome these things and there'll be a lesson in there for you to be able to move forward. So it's just like so if I didn't have that card, not to say I wouldn't have got to that conclusion in my head, but it definitely like pushed me in that direction. And it also gives you like space to just be still. Like these
Mhm.
things like give you space to be still and be with your thoughts and be with your subconscious mind,
Yeah.
because that plays a massive part in your life, and most majority of people can't even comprehend how much that plays in your life.
I was going to say people right now, but like because you've said just being still, a lot of
What?
people listen like I can't be that. Oh my god, I've got to be on the move all the time. And
Yeah.
I thought that, and I've had COVID recently, and like for the past week I've had it, and being in your bed for 4 days sleeping, and then getting up and then having these thoughts of like, am I where I want to be right now? Like, what do I want? Is my, like that kind of shift that we go through kind of every year or every 18 months, every 2 years sort of thing. I was like, well, I had a big shift this time last year. Am I feeling like that a little bit again? And actually, this morning, I sat and it's the first time I've planned out a year in my life.
Mm.
First time I've planned out a
Exciting.
year. And I was like, I'm just at that stage where I feel like I'm ready to
Yeah,
do that.
Mhm.
And I've planned out the year ahead and there's lots of, and I'm looking at it thinking, the Katie like 5 years ago would be like,
Who's
what
your
the
yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
like how are you doing all this that you can't
Mhm.
cope with life? And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, I can because I'm doing it all.
Thing.
Like
Yeah.
going to America myself for a fortnight. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like doing all these
That's so
different
empowering. Like that is
yeah,
empowering. You doing these things, like
yeah.
doing these things that are a bit scary and that you would
Hmm.
never have done before. You'll step on that plane, you'll be like, bossed it.
Exactly, because I've worked for it. You've
Yeah.
earned it. I'm doing like my marathon a fortnight before it, and like, that's my kind of rest. That'll be
Mm.
kind of my recce, I suppose, in a way, because that'll be something that 5 years ago Katie would, never have imagined that she would be doing things like that. That's where my empowerment comes from, like making sure I'm learning, I'm reading in the right spaces, I'm listening in the right
Yeah,
spaces. I even
definitely.
try to turn the narrative of like when I'm not coaching and I'm being a funeral director, like using that as an experience to learn from it and be empowered because sometimes I'm more empowered by a deceased
Which I
that
can totally understand. I was thinking this
yeah,
when you were talking about the funeral stuff. Like I can totally understand because it must give you like as much as it must be like heartbreaking as well. Like it must be like the heart of we spoke about that before, but it must always just make you aware of how precious life is. And the more awareness you've got for like how precious life is, the more you want to get after your life. Do you know what I mean?
And
Like,
I've only been able to do that in the last year.
mhm.
And then Christian actually said to me after his grand passed away last year, and then they'd been at him and Ailey had been at another funeral, I think 8 months ago, something like that, the beginning of this year. And he said, I go to a funeral and I come away from it. He says, and I feel very motivated and like built a momentum. And I had to sit with that and I'm thinking, why?
Aye, who gets
why?
motivated to a funeral?
Like why? Like, but then I sat and thought
Yeah,
about it, and I thought of all the funerals that I've been a part of in my 10 years of doing it full time. The amount of funerals that I've sat with and I've listened to someone speak at
incredible
someone's
story.
funeral, incredible stories, or it's been not accurate stories because the family or the person's maybe not been like the family thought and things like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I actually do get it because we're
Yeah.
alive, we've got an opportunity, we've got a chance, we've got
Mhm.
choices presented in front of us. Like that, I always think you've got the choice, or you're sitting at a funeral and that's your other choice. And
Yeah.
yes, that choice is going to be taken out of our hands and it's going to come to us at one time or another. It's always going to be there and surrounded us, but we have a choice of who we be to treat it
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And I talk about legacy all the time, about how your legacy is after you die. It's not before it. This is
Yeah.
your time to, so like that's like us saying, yeah, we're being empowered women and trying to grow as much as we can, try to develop as much as we can. So when we're not here, our legacy is after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of all the experiences and challenges and everything
Mhm.
that we faced, and those women, for example, that are feeling that they're struggling, they're very overwhelmed, they're not really coping, they're just going through challenges that
Mhm.
you've got that. And I thought, oh right, a funeral's a weird place to be motivated, but when you get it,
You get
maybe
it.
that's like marking a tarot card as well though, because each
Yeah.
funeral for me is a different card.
Yeah.
And it reflects of like, and it's not trying to talk about funerals and anything, but like say a female to a male is completely different.
Yeah.
Someone that's been positive throughout their life to someone that's maybe not been as positive, depending on family dynamics, depending
Yeah.
on splits in families, depending on the atmosphere at a funeral, depending on if it is
It's an energy,
treated,
you can feel
yeah,
it.
depending if it's been treated as a celebration of life or the
Mhm.
complete doom and gloom. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, that's where like you have to put it into your own context. If I
Yeah.
don't put that into that context for me, as people
That
say
would be
to me,
really
"Oh, you
hard.
must be like surrounded by that. It must be really hard." Yeah, well, it is, but this is what I have to do
Yeah.
to
But
look
also,
after
like you
myself.
say,
But yeah,
as much as you're surrounded by death and grief and stuff like that, you're also surrounded by, like you say, when you're hearing those stories, it must be so inspiring. Like that, some of them must be so inspiring. Where you're
like
like,
that
oh,
goosebump moment thing in your
I
arm.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
and even when you hear, like, even when you think about your own, like, you would love to think ahead and think, actually, somebody's going to say those amazing, incredible things about my legacy and how that's going to live on and stuff.
massively,
Like,
massively.
so actually, weirdly enough, just because we're talking about funerals, my moment of like something's got like life's too short kind of was when my papa, who's my hero, I think I've told you a story before.
You have, yeah, I've heard,
My,
yeah,
my papa, my cousin passed away in the exact same day, and my cousin was like 34, and my papa was like in his 90s. Like he had like he was here the whole day, for the whole nearly 100 years, and that was a moment where it was a horrific day. Like I had a horrific day in the sense that you found out your cousin who was like my wee best friend when I was younger, and your papa's passed away in the one day. But it was also the moment that I was like, what the fuck? Like life, excuse my language, but like
oh yeah,
life
that's yeah,
just goes and you can choose, like you say, you've got a choice with every single breath you take. You've got a choice. You can either plod along and you can settle, or you can actually take courageous action and be your best self. Like that's the choice you've got. Like that,
yeah,
there's only two choices. That's the choice.
and that's why we're sitting here having these conversations and we can talk like that. And through all of that, all your experience learning and everything, like from
Mm.
that moment of like using your context of learning about your cousin, learning about your papa, in the same day and everything of like using it as your like an powerful fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
What has it helped you create in the empowered Donna that you are?
Oh wow. I would say so. I like before that, I'd obviously was already on a bit of a path. My story before that was not had its moments, I should say. And then that was the catalyst for like I had got so far in my own kind of like I was saying earlier on, like I had been so done kind of a bit of personal development. I had tapped into like mindfulness and mindset and mental health and blah blah blah. And then that was the moment of right, I can level up here. I can do more. And that's when I reached into and I started working with Christian. What was the question? I feel went off on a tangent there.
So from the moment that
But from
your
that
cousin,
moment,
yeah, just like using it as fuel to your fire of empowerment of, and everything that you've gone through even before that,
yeah.
like how has it created the empowered Donna that you're now
So
practicing what you're preaching and using for your clients and everyone
yeah,
else?
no, it's the algorithm.
There we go. We're back in the room. Here we go.
Honestly, I was like, oh, distracted. I would say like pain can be really, really good fuel. Like it really can. It can be really good fuel. It was the fueling of like the pain of my past self was 100% the reason why I was like, I'm not settling here. I need to be. I know that I've got more in me. So pain can be like a massive catalyst. It doesn't always need to be pain though, because now it's not pain. Now it's more like growth and learning and more about like, right, how far can I push this? How far can I go, sort of thing. But for me, that moment was definitely very significant in the sense that it just, like I said before, it made you realise how precious life was and like it is not guaranteed. Like the only guarantee in life is that it ends. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it made me just realise that actually like how precious life is, that actually why what am I doing? Like who do I actually want to be? Like where's the bigger picture here? What do I actually want out of my life? Like what do I want my legacy to look like? So that was definitely the catalyst to then bring me to to where I am and who I am, in the sense that it then just unlocked this new level, and it just made me like start to explore like that more spirituality and explore different things and just be like, right, what else can I learn? What else, like give me more. Like I want to know as much as I possibly can, be as much as I possibly can to ensure that when that day comes that I'm not going, I wish I'd done that. Like do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? I like live like
Mm-hmm.
the regrets. Like so um obviously the empowerment coach stemmed really from a abusive relationship. That's really where that it was born from, if you like from being so disempowered previously to now having that full like 360 and feeling and not just feeling looking at, like, and actually acting like the person who I wanted to be back then. I just didn't know how. I just didn't know that. I didn't know what that looked like or how to do it, and it's just took like baby steps to get there, and being open and honest and allowing things to, and being vulnerable actually is a big one, because when you've been in a space where you've been quite disempowered, being vulnerable is quite scary to do. But it's the best thing you can do, because you're being honest with yourself, you're being honest with people around you, and you can use all of those things, all of that shit that's been flung at you, you can use it as fertilizer. Like you can absolutely use it as fertilizer.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Do you think then, by doing all of that and going through all of that, the pain and everything of being a good thing, I think they're like, do you think it can create like a formula of empowerment can equal freedom?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Empowerment can equal fulfillment. It can
Yeah.
equal happiness. Like I'm thinking of all these little things in my head, like it's
I
cuckoo
can,
brain going on over here with it.
yeah, absolutely. I think that the most beautiful word I think I can say now is content. Like
Love
it's like
that
a
word.
feeling of
Love that.
content. Like I don't think I could ever have a better word. Like I just, because that feeling of content is just, it's just something else. And like that, there's no resentment, there's no like, because I've made peace with so much, and I've actually been like, actually see all these things. Like I used it to as fertilizer, like all these different things that's happened throughout my life, which obviously we'll not get into, but like it's now like, thanks for that, because
Mm-hmm.
it made me who I am and it's brought me to where I am, and without all that I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing.
I love that. That's empowerment 101 right
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
And from all of that, I get everyone to answer the same question. So
Okay.
this is going to be really interesting to hear your answer on this, Donna.
Okay.
What are your superpowers?
Oh, wait till me think now. What are my superpowers?
I love putting everybody on the spot with this.
That is a spot on. I feel like it would be too cliche to say empowerment because that's
No, it wouldn't.
we
Start
talked
with
about
that.
that.
Right,
We
start.
talked
Okay,
about that.
I'll let you have empowerment if
Um,
you give me another one. So we'll start with empowerment.
okay, so empowerment. Superpowers. I'm trying to I'm now to question myself. Is that a superpower?
Yeah. There's
Um,
the thing is this is not a right or wrong answer because
okay.
because remember everyone's different in life,
Yeah.
and what you feel is your superpower is your superpower.
Yeah, being able to use my voice, recognizing like how powerful your voice is, like, and I would say that would be a massive thing that I will absolutely shout from the rooftops, like having your voice and being heard is there's no more stronger thing.
I
There's no
wanted
more.
to nod my head super at this one 'cause this is what I'm learning in therapy right now is how to
Yes.
open my
Like
goddamn trap.
owning it. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
owning it. Like own your voice and know
Yeah.
your voice and speak your truth and use it's your power. That is your power. Like
As
your voice. So definitely voice, like being like using your voice and using speaking your truth, massive empowerment and probably I would say resilience. Which can be sometimes it can be a hindrance because sometimes you're so resilient that it actually it can stop you from growing in the sense that you can be so resilient that you can be sometimes I can be a bit of a I've heard this story before, but I can be a bit of a like I must do that. Like you know what I mean? Like the whole
yep. That's why we call you
do.
super mum and RFA, yes.
I must do it. But recognizing like resilience doesn't need to be just that I must do it. So be it can also be the recognizing having the self-awareness to actually be like, no, actually that's not serving you today. So and that's been a big learning curve. Like
I love
learning
that.
resilience needs to be
Love it. And I think from our conversation, both kind of personally and professionally throughout this conversation, that's, yeah, I don't think anyone could disagree with that because, as you say, you be your authentic self with it and speaking your truth. And for anyone that is listening and watching our conversation and they want to stalk you like I do, I'm getting this reputation on this podcast for being a stalker, but anyone wants to follow you or reach out or continue feeling inspired by this conversation, where can anyone find you to be able to do that?
I'm pretty sure it's just the Empowerment Coach on Instagram and it's just my name on Facebook, and in fact there is an Empowerment Coach Facebook page, but I'm very rarely on it. And I'm even on TikTok. Look at me.
Are you? Check you out, Donna.
Yeah.
Oh, joining the TikTokers amongst us.
I know. So
Oh.
and then I've got a podcast as well that again it's called the Empowerment Coach. What else? I feel like there's just hundreds of different things, aren't there, that you do?
Well, I'll put them all down in the notes below anyway, so I won't miss them out. So they will be all on there. So for anyone listening, taking anything away, just remember, especially if you're a woman, you're strong, you are empowered, resilient, and that word content is just
enough.
Love it.
Enough.
Yeah, we are all enough. Yeah,
and that's a big one. Like a big, massive one is that enoughness. In fact, I would go as far as to say every single fear comes back to the feeling of being enough.
I think that's a good way to end with that. Donna, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you so much for having me. I loved it.